Alright everybody, welcome to the channel and welcome to a one of a 6-part series for Wartales, where I'm kind of going to just really go over and talk about all of the classes, kind of ways how to play them, or how I play them at least, best ways to use them both inside of the fighting map and then on the world map, and their professions, and just a few little things here and there to try to help direct how you want to be using each of the different classes in the best way that works for me. Whenever I play on the hardest difficulty, and this is usually what I do as just a staple to make it so it works as best as I can. Now obviously there'll be other ways that you can go about these classes, how you can use them, how you build them, what stats you go on, so on and so forth. Obviously it's up to you how you want to use them, but if you're looking for a way that for sure works and you can kind of build your own build around, this is going to be one of the 6 videos that'll help you. So with that being said, we can just go ahead and get into the first one. Okay, so the first one that I want to cover is going to be the Swordsman. Obviously they use a sword, it can be one-handed or two-handed, and as well as they can use a shield. So now with this guy having the option to pick one-handed or two-handed, you can kind of have 2 of them in your party if you would want to. I recommend always having one swordsman. Your swordsman is going to be your main tank. So because of that, I like to have them start with a shield because it gives you a little bit more guard, it gives you more armor, it makes you tank a little bit more. For your utility, you have a few different ones. You can go Wrath here, do a little bit more damage. It does work, but I don't like going this. You can have First Aid, which is one of the choices that I like to have. You're going to have him up on the front line. He's going to be in the fight a lot. If there is a teammate that is hurt, it's because they are on the front line more than likely, so he can be there to help them. So First Aid is one that you can go. Taunt is usually what I always go for. Taunt you can force the enemy to attack you. It gives them weakening so they do less damage. So it's just a really, really good one. Taunt is usually the best one to go. And then that's kind of all that we're at with that. Now your traits, you can kind of pick whatever you like. Stocky's not bad, Thin Skin's not bad, Volunteer is okay, Quick is fine, Clever. All of them basically except for Nimble. Swordsman doesn't get any benefit from using Dexterity. There's really no sense to doing it. Because I use mine as basically a tank and nothing otherwise, I like to go Brawny. Now, you can do a second trait here too. So let's say if we decide we want Clever. However, if you pick a second one, it is going to force you to take a negative one. So either it's going to be random, or you can pick which one you want. All of these suck. You don't want any of these. I always just go like this, pick my base one, and then leave this alone, and then you don't start with any. And then you can just pick up good traits along the course of the playthrough. So in an ideal world, this is how I would set up my swordsman. I would have Brawny, I would have a one-handed sword and shield, and I would have Taunt. And that is how I would start my swordsman at the start. So here we are right now. I have loaded up our playthrough from what is currently on the YouTube channel, our videos that we're going through. And I'm going to go through this just because I have pretty much everything unlocked and I can show you guys stuff and you can visualize it without kind of having to guess, something being hidden or something like that. So it makes it a little bit easier just to work with. So our swordsman, how do we want to build him? Now you have 3 different trees: Protector, Fighter, and Swordmaster. So if you go Protector, you get Encouragement, which gives all allies in the area protection for 2 rounds, which reduces the damage they take by 30%. Now this is a totally feasible one. You can absolutely go this. It actually does help quite a bit. Damage reduction there is really, really good. This is something you can go. I don't think that this one is better or worse than the Fighter one, but this is if you want to have your swordsman do nothing but protect the team, go this one. However, if you're like me and you want your swordsman to do a little bit of damage, you go Destabilizing Strike, which is going to reduce the enemy's guard to 0 for 2 turns, which basically is going to mean that they don't have any guard bonus, so you're going to do a little bit more damage. Now the reason why I have this is because a lot of times when I load into the battle, I will move my swordsman and find the AIs Captain, who gives them the bonus where they have double movement speed, 30% more crit, are going to do more damage to people who are dueling, whatever it might be. I have him go over and fight that guy right away. And as long as the enemy captain is engaged, they will not be able to get that bonus. I get destabilizing strike because I want to have my Swordmaster basically kill him as fast as possible so then he can help the rest of the team. And he's not caught up in a target. Alternatively, you could go Swordmaster, which you deal damage to units 2 times. So basically, you attack twice and then you get to do a double attack. Now, if you're going a Swordsman and you're all about you want to do as much damage as possible, without a doubt, this is the best one. This is a crazy amount of damage. It's got a decent area with it too. So if enemies are lined up, I think you could ultimately hit 3 enemies at once if you line it up properly. It's really, really good. It does a lot of damage. So you could do that. Then we go into your first passive, which defensive stance. This unit gains deflection. If they are engaged in combat, you gain back a valor point, and deflection will make it so the next attack is reduced by 70%. I almost never go this, and the reason why is, if I go back here, this shield specifically doesn't have it because I've got damage reduction, but a lot of shields will actually give you that. You can get a lot of shields for your character that will give you this passive for free. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to really go that. However, if you aren't crafting your own gear or you feel like you're struggling with that or whatever it might be, you can go ahead and get this one. The next one is every time your attack hits several enemies, you gain a valor point. If you're going one-handed sword, do not get this one. Even if you go Swordmaster, just don't get it. It's just not worth it. The only time that you go this is if your character is using a two-handed sword. That's the only time it's worth. Otherwise, you are setting yourself up to struggle a lot more than you should be. Just take my word for it. Just don't do it. It's just not worth it. The best one, in my opinion, is Valorous Duel, which every time you engage in combat, you gain 1 valor point. So, like I said, I use my Swordsman to go up and basically find the biggest threat and fight him right away. So right off the bat, I'm just getting a valor point. And because my Swordsman is my main tank and is going to be on the front line, he's going to be always in battle with somebody. He's always going to be engaged. So it just kind of makes the most sense to have this because he's just going to be getting valor points and he's always going to be fighting. The next tier is level 5, and you can get Bulwark. So each time this unit engages, they gain deflection, which, again, not too bad. It makes it so as soon as you hit somebody, when they hit you back, it's not going to do much damage. That definitely can work. Again, if you are going the nothing but having this guy do anything except get hit, this will work. However, I think the best option is to go counterattack. So each time you engage with somebody, you get riposte, or riposte, however you prefer to say it. The next time this unit is attacked by an engaged opponent, they parry with an attack of opportunity. So basically, if you run up and you use destabilizing strike on somebody, you get a valor point, and then when they attack you back, you attack them again. So you go up, you destabilizing strike, you do your normal attack, you get attacked, and you do this. So basically, in the one turn, this guy gets to attack 3 times, which is pretty good overall. Again, this focuses a little bit more on him doing some damage, but it's really, really good because, once again, you're always going to be engaged. Now, this doesn't stack, so after you counterattack 1 time, that's it. You're not going to keep counterattacking the same person. You would have to disengage and re-engage. So just keep that in mind with this. And then you have Daring. As long as the bonus is active on this unit, their attacks apply weakening for 1 turn, which reduces their damage by 50%. Which, this one could be okay. It's a little bit harder to work, but it definitely can have its rewards with it. So, for example, if you have a defensive stance, you could use this, right? And then, your attack would apply weakening, right? So, you obviously have some ways to go around this, but this one requires a little bit more attention to detail, I guess, in order to make this work. So it's not bad, but because of how I have my Swordsman set up, I don't need this. Then we have our level 8. So as long as this unit has no armor, they have brutality, which increases damage by 30%. You could argue this one is pretty good. You're going to be on the front line a lot. You are going to be taking a lot of hits. It's very possible that you might not have any armor. So this one, if this is what you feel like you want to go, you can. Now, I think my unit here has, I don't know, like 60 armor or something like that. Maybe even more at this point. And I'm not even, he's only level 6. And he's got that much armor. So I've got a long ways to go. So I don't feel like I'm going to be losing armor too much. But if you don't have very many front lines, this is definitely the way to go. Now, hand-to-hand combat. You apply disarm to the target for 1 round. They can no longer use skills with their weapons. That one's not too bad. I don't see too much of a benefit with it. Just because it costs a valor point and it doesn't do any damage. Now, it's kind of a utility-based thing, so it definitely can work. You can make it work. But it's just not as good as some of the other ones, basically, is kind of what I'm getting at. A lot of enemies are just going to do basic attacks. Now, it's level 8, so by the time you do get to this, you're going to be fighting some higher tier enemies who might be actually able to use stuff with their weapons. And that, I mean, this definitely can benefit you. But again, it's kind of similar to Daring in the sense of it's a little bit more attention to detail. If you're just using this just to use it, it's probably not worth it. But if you know why you're using it, it definitely can benefit you. But again, this is only good for basically fighting higher tier enemies, and even with that, certain enemies. Then you have hardcore training. This unit is immune to bleeding, poison, and burning. Now, this one can be really, really good. This is one of the 2 in this tree that I would get, just because he's going to be on your front line. He's going to be tanking a lot of hits. If you play this game, you know that the, I don't know what their names are, the bandits that use the poison daggers, the bombers, which are the fire arrow archers, are unbelievably frustrating. A lot of times when I use him, Swapsy, my swordsman, he's kind of on his own, right? Because like I said, I want to go engage the enemy commander right away and just hold them there so they don't get the bonus. So he's just getting beat up on. And a lot of times, he's getting hit by some sort of either bleeding or poison. Especially when you get to later game, you're going to be getting hit with... Early game, you're going to be getting hit with poison a lot. Late game, you're going to be getting hit with bleeding a lot. So being able to counter these with just a passive is actually incredibly good. So it's kind of up to you if you either want to have Last Stand or Hardcore Training. I know for me, when I do get to level 8, I'm going to be getting Hardcore Training. And the final set of passives are, you can have a second weapon, so you can swap swords. If you have 2 swords that are really, really good, you obviously can do that. You could have a sword that gives you maybe more of an AoE attack, or lets you disengage. You could have that as a secondary, so that way if you get surrounded, you can AoE attack. If your ranger, your archer is getting jumped and you have nobody to help, you could, use this weapon to disengage and then go re-engage with that guy. So it's definitely a possibility. Once again, this is another one where I feel like it's a little bit more attention to detail. Once you kind of get an idea of what you're doing, this has more of a higher skill cap, because it gives you more options and more versatility of what you can do. If you are just starting out and you're just trying to figure things out, I mean, you got to level 10, so you probably got a pretty good understanding of it. But if you are still struggling, this one might not be for you. Defensive riposte. So when this unit disengages, you have a 50% chance to deal an attack of opportunity instead of taking one. I mean, that speaks for itself. You can just disengage, and there's a chance that you hit the enemy instead. Now, obviously, you're playing a gamble on that a little bit. It's only 50%, so you're rolling the dice a little bit. If again, it's something where your teammate needs help, you have to get over there. You don't have a second sword to switch to. You can use this, and maybe you're set, right? Maybe you take a little bit of damage. It's a little bit of gamble, so it's a little weird, but it definitely can pay off. Then the last one is Intervention. This unit can swap places with an adjacent ally engaged in combat. The unit will become engaged in combat and will deal an attack of opportunity. So basically, you swap with a teammate and then you attack the enemy. Now this is, and it does an attack of opportunity, most cases it's going to do a little bit more damage than a normal attack would. So this is a pretty good skill. It does cost a valor point, which is a little bit of a downside, but for what it gives you, it's really, really good. It's going to really give you that kind of protect style that you want to go, and it just like really, really helps out. So it's definitely a good one to go. Depending on when I hit level 10, what I have for swords, I might go second weapon, but if I don't feel like I have a good enough sword for that, I'm going to be using intervention, is what it's going to be. So you kind of have different trees that you can go down. A lot of classes, it's kind of nice to, go a little bit, maybe take one or two in a different tree, just to kind of, hit a few different key targets. Or if you're somebody that just likes to have a huge party. I know if you're in like the official Discord, some people are rolling around with like 20 to like 80 people. That's too much for me, but if that's what you want to do, then you could just go full protector, and then full fighter, and then full swordsman with no issues whatsoever. But I don't like to have parties any more than 9 because there's only 9 professions. Now with the professions, you have different ones here, obviously. It can give you constitution, can give you willpower, can give you critical hit, can give you strength, can give you dexterity. So I have mine as a minor because it gives me constitution and strength. However, I don't think this is the best one to give to him. I just did this because I needed to have this, and it's not a bad one to have on him. Constitution and strength for a swordsman is not bad. However, the best one that you can give him, I think, is the cook, because this one is going to pump out constitution, which gives you health. And if you play the swordsman how I do, you want a lot of HP. You want him to be a beefy frontline that is just going to absorb everything. So ideally, you could go cook. If you don't want to go cook, if you have bard unlocked, which you have to go to a Tomb of the Ancients and find a spot where you would need to use a bard, you can use bard, is also a really good one. After that, I would say your next best ones are a miner and then blacksmith, and then after that, probably you could go tinker, you could go an angler, you could go a scholar. Absolutely do not do thief or alchemist. It gives dexterity, it's just not worth it. But I would recommend a cook or bard would be my 2 recommendations on what the best absolute way to go would be for your swordsman. And that's just how you build them. When you fight with him, all you do, send him right in the middle. That's all you do. Just if he's not engaged with an enemy, you're playing him wrong. He needs to be on the front line. He needs to be hitting people. He needs to be getting hit. You do that. It's pretty simple. Your swordsman will be able to do much more for you than you just initially realize. If you've watched my playthrough, you'll understand. If you're still a little skeptical, go watch some of my earlier videos. The only reason we are where we are is because of Swapsy here. This tank has been able to fight 4 enemies off by himself for like 4 turns until we killed everybody else, and then we're able to come over and help. If you set up your swordsman right, he can literally fight an army by himself. Not going to kill them, but they're not going to kill him. And as you can look at my stats aren't even that high. He has a huge way to go still. So that is my recommendation on how to play the swordsman in Wartales. And I think I'm playing on hard, and I haven't had any issues. Nobody's died under his watch yet. So I think it's very, very worth it to make your swordsman just the absolute main tank.